Tonight, the surging cost of energy. The First Minister warns lives will be lost unless significant action is taken to deal with spiralling gas and electricity prices.
We are talking destitution for many people, people simply unable to meet the basic costs of living.
Also making the headlines, rubbish piles high in Edinburgh. The bin workers' strike enters its 5th day with the festival in full swing. The dispute is set to spread to other councils.
In sport, Rangers appeal Lundstrom's red card as they raise concerns over the performance of referee Willie Collum.
And bringing down the house, the Soweto Gospel Choir giving pop classics a fringe makeover. I'm Kellyanne Woodland in Edinburgh.
And I'm John Mackay in Glasgow. This is the STV News at 6.
Good evening. By the end of this week, we will know how much our energy bills will go up by this autumn. On Friday, the Energy Watchdog will announce the amount suppliers will be able to charge households for gas and electricity from October. As things stand, it'll be another inflation-busting increase, potentially an 80% rise.
The Scottish Government is warning more than a third of the country will be in fuel poverty as a result. And the First Minister is warning lives will be lost unless significant action is taken. Nicola Sturgeon is due to meet energy suppliers and poverty campaigners tomorrow. Our political correspondent, Ewan Petrie, reports.
Gary Evans had to give up his job as a bus driver because of a long-term back injury. Increased energy bills have forced him to turn to food banks for the first time in his life. The autumn price hike, due to be announced on Friday, is already filling him with dread.
I'm seriously worried about it. Seriously. It's going to end up, folk are going to take their lives because of this, because they can't afford to eat or heat. The rich get richer, these companies, rich and the poorer are getting even poorer. When are they going to stop them? They've got to do something to help us all.
There are warnings energy bills could reach as much as £6,000 per year from April. Energy company bosses have called on the UK government to freeze prices, a policy backed by the Scottish Government, Labour and the Lib Dems. Tomorrow the First Minister will host a summit to discuss how to protect households on low incomes.
We are talking destitution for many people, people simply unable to meet the basic costs of living, and lives will be lost from this crisis if action is not taken. That is how serious it is, and it is really difficult, I think, for anybody to overstate the massive impact that is coming down the track if the UK government doesn't start to do its job and take action to avert it.
Campaigners also fear the worst is still to come. Economists have warned inflation, the rate of price rises, could hit 18% early next year.
Every year in the winter months we have excess winter mortality. Pre-pandemic, about 800 people a year died living in a cold, damp home on affordable energy. Whereas now we're looking at prices that are nearly 3 times higher. People are inevitably going to die. It's entirely predictable that this will happen. It could be thousands of additional excess winter deaths.
For those already struggling, help cannot come quickly enough. However, Downing Street has said there will be no new policy announcement on energy prices before a new Prime Minister is in place in 2 weeks.
So, Ewan, what can we expect from this summit tomorrow?
Well, these new forecasts today on inflation and energy prices are yet more reminders of the scale of the challenges ahead. So this meeting tomorrow will bring together the main energy suppliers, industry bodies and also some poverty campaigners. Now, there will be broad agreement among them that the energy price cap should be frozen exactly where it is. Any price hike should be cancelled this week, but you know, the issue with that is that it's only the UK government that has the power to implement that, and it's highly unlikely that we'll see any major announcement from them in the final 2 weeks of the Boris Johnson administration, and Liz Truss and Rishi Sunak cannot agree on the best course of action going forward. They've spent another day today knocking lumps out of each other's proposals. So we know that there will be a price hike on Friday, but we're going to have to wait a bit longer to find out exactly what the UK government's going to do about it.
Ewan, thank you.
Comedians from the Edinburgh Festival Fringe are to stage a benefit gig in aid of the city's striking refuse collectors. The walkout is now in its 5th day, with more and more bins overflowing. The action is due to continue until the end of the month. That's after the festivals have ended. And more than 20 other council areas will also be affected from later this week. Here's our senior reporter, Gordon Cree.
The eyes of the world are on Edinburgh. People have flocked here for the festivals, but much of what they've seen is rubbish.
We are from Singapore and it's very clean and we're not used to seeing this, so it is a bit surprising because, you know, when we think about Edinburgh, Scotland, we think beautiful.
So I'm totally supportive of the strike, even though it massively inconveniences me. I literally seen a rat eating another dead rat last night in the street walking home.
I know there's like a strike going on, so I kind of understand, you know, people are trying to get more money because of all the inflation. So, you know, it is what it is. Hopefully they can come to some sort of agreement and, you know, things can get resolved.
This is Marchmont Road, a largely residential area just half a mile from the heart of the festival. And here too, the rubbish is really piling up. And of course, the longer the dispute goes on, the worse this is going to get. Comedian Jo Caulfield's a perennial performer on the Fringe. She also lives in the capital.
That's the whole point of a strike, is that you notice what life is like without these people, and we need them, and we need them happy and well paid. It seems to me that people are batting it back and forth. Is it the Labour Conservative Council? Is it the STV government? It's like, well, all of you get together and sort this out. Give them a good deal and then they will agree.
She's on the bill for a show in aid of the refuse collectors who are on strike. It's organised by a man who's made political comedy an art form for decades.
You can't come up to a festival like this, which is an amazing event, and ignore the real lives of people that's happening around you. You can't sort of build yourself in a bubble. So it's really, really important to connect with what's happening here politically to what's happening in terms of people struggling just for a pay rise.
The strike here is scheduled to last another week. By then, the festivals will have had their finale. But tonight, it seems, the chances of an early end to the dispute appear slim.
So Gordon, what's the latest on negotiations?
Well, you can see the impact the strike is having here, and later this week refuse workers in a number of councils across the Central Belt are due to join in as well. COSLA, of course, has already upped its pay offer from 3.5% to 5%. Tomorrow, the three unions involved, Unite, Unison and the GMB, will have talks with COSLA in Glasgow. The unions are unhappy about the pay offer. They say it doesn't offer enough for the lowest paid workers. I think they will propose a flat rate pay increase for everyone, but I don't think there's a huge degree of confidence that these talks tomorrow will produce a positive outcome at this stage. Kellyanne.
All right, Gordon, thanks very much.
A night manager has told the Cameron House inquiry she was absolutely horrified when she saw Porter clearing out the ashes of a log fire using a plastic bin bag. The incident happened 3 days before the hotel's fatal blaze claimed the lives of 2 guests.
Anne Rundle said she challenged the employee when she saw him with the plastic bag of ashes from the fireplace. Our chief reporter Sharon Frew was in court.
This is the moment the fire at Cameron House was discovered in a cupboard by night porter Christopher O'Malley. Flames and toxic black smoke then spread to the floors above. Guests Simon Midgley and Richard Dyson died. The porter was later given a community payback order after he admitted placing a plastic bag of ashes from an open fire inside the cupboard. Night manager Anne Rundle was not on shift on the morning of the fatal blaze. In her evidence, she described strongly challenging another night porter, Raymond Burns, after seeing him use a plastic bag filled with water when he was clearing out ashes from the grates in reception. This happened in the early hours of the 15th of December 2017, 3 days before the fire. She said Christopher O'Malley was within earshot.
Anne Rundell told the inquiry she was horrified and said Raymond Burns knew I was angry. She said he replied, "Sorry boss, I don't know what I was thinking." The night manager said the porter gave her the explanation that he couldn't find a metal bucket, and she told him to use a chafing dish, a metal tray from the kitchen, like he usually did. CCTV of this night was shown to the inquiry. Christopher O'Malley is seen standing next to Raymond Burns, and the two men spoke to each other as Anne Rundell walked away. The pair were then seen going to a loading bay outside. Raymond Burns appears to be carrying a plastic bag containing ash, which he throws into a compactor unit. Christopher O'Malley is holding an ice bucket in his hands, and he heads towards an area where the ash bins were kept.
Photographs of the ash bins show that they were full. CCTV from the 29th of November, a fortnight before the fire, was also shown in court. Raymond Burns again appeared to be using a plastic bag with water to remove ash, this time unchallenged by his manager. Miss Rundell told the court, "I can assure you that conversation took place." The operator of Cameron House has previously been fined £500,000 after admitting breaches of fire safety. The sheriff has heard there was no formal training for the clearing of embers from the log fires, and equipment was not maintained, with employees often using metal trays and ice buckets. 2 previous incidents at the hotel involving hot ash were also highlighted in court. One 10 years before the fatal fire, where ash had been placed in a cardboard box. The inquiry will hear from more witnesses tomorrow. Sharon Frew, STV News.
A domestic abuse survivor says she would no longer be alive if she hadn't left the home she shared with her ex-partner. The woman, whose name we've changed to protect her identity, has been helped to relocate to another local authority area after fearing for her and her children's safety.
The project, which found the property for her, Revive Scotland, has overseen 16 moves for survivors since it started a year ago. Susan Ripple reports.
Laura tried twice to leave the home she shared with her abusive ex, but told me she didn't have the courage to go. The third time she reached out for help, she knew she had to get out.
I didn't want to be here anymore. That's how bad it got. So, I just didn't want to be alive anymore. Living in that house with my ex-partner and that's what made me do it. That was when I realised that, you need to go, I've got 2 wee boys to think about, so it was really hard to leave everything I owned, everything, and just go, but I'd done it. And it was just because I just didn't want to be there anymore, literally didn't want to wake up.
Women's Aid found Laura and her children a place at a refuge before they moved to a safe house. Revive Scotland then got involved and found the family a permanent, safe home in a new local authority area.
They've put alarms in all my windows. I've also got a lock, so if anybody did ever get into my house, I can go to a room and it's going to lock me in that room with the kids and nobody will get in it. I've also got my fencing. They put fencing up so that nobody can properly see in my gardens and things like that.
Laura was helped by Andrea at Revive Scotland. She's been involved in 16 moves since the project started last year.
When you kind of think about what they've already gone through, not to have a basic right of a safe home, in an area that, they've chosen. So that's what we really do, is we kind of empower them to have a think about, where do I want to move, why do I want to move, and we then work our way around that.
No matter if you're 12 and in a very casual relationship with someone, or if you're 25 and you've moved in together and got your own flat, any form of abuse is unacceptable, and we will provide support for anyone who has experienced any form of abuse within an intimate relationship.
Laura is now decorating her home and her children are settling into their new surroundings. Crucially, it's a place they all feel safe. Susan Ripple, STV News.
And if you need support, Scotland's Domestic Abuse and Forced Marriage Helpline operates 24/7 on 0800 027 1234. And on the womensaid.scot website, there's information about local women's aid groups.
Other stories across Scotland, and part of the M74 was closed this morning after a bus caught fire. Emergency services were called to the scene around 10:30. The Scottish Fire and Rescue Service say there were no reported casualties.
Around 300 offshore drilling and contract workers in the North Sea are to be balloted on strike action in a dispute over pay. The Unite Union is urging the UK Drilling Contractors Association to hold talks before the dispute escalates. Union members have already rejected a 5% pay offer.
And workers, including cleaners, librarians and technicians at 4 of Scotland's universities, have voted to go on strike in a dispute over pay. Unison members at Napier, Glasgow, GCU and Robert Gordon all balloted in favour of industrial action.
Now, a couple who fled Syria for Scotland 6 years ago have shared their joy at being reunited with the majority of their family. Nidal and Ahmad al-Nabulsi met their daughter and son at Manchester Airport last week.
However, another daughter remains in a refugee camp in Lebanon, with the family desperate to see her brought here to complete their family reunion. Ollie Dickinson reports.
A reunion 6 years in the making. Nidal and Ahmad faced an anxious wait to see their family again after fleeing the war in Syria.
I felt so happy because I had seen my daughter and her children, who I haven't seen for so long. I cannot describe the happiness, but at the same time, I had a gulp in my throat. The family wasn't complete because we lost a child. I had hoped to see them all.
The child the family lost was their grandson Mohammed. He died, aged just 3, in Lebanon, whilst waiting for his visa.
I remember I was trying to keep him warm to save him. There was nothing to help him. I had to use my headscarf to cover my child. I wish they had issued the visas earlier. Then we could have all been together.
Meanwhile, another daughter remains in Lebanon. She has 2 children and is on her own after her husband drowned trying to cross the Mediterranean to safety. The family's lawyer says complex cases like this one are not uncommon.
Lebanon is about the size of Dumfries and Galloway in Scotland, about an eighth of the size of Scotland. And as I've said repeatedly, there's nearly 2 million Syrian refugees stuck there. They deserve to be out of a war zone. They have families just like you and I have families.
Nidal says his dream is for future generations of the al-Nabulsi family to enjoy life in Scotland, a country he says he'll always remember welcomed them with open arms. Ollie Dickinson, STV News, Kirkintilloch.
North Lanarkshire Council is being branded a disgrace by frustrated parents after failing to secure school transport for children. Bin men are being drafted in to drive school buses, meaning collections have been paused and no solution is expected until mid-September at the earliest. Caroline Lewis has more.
That's a big number, 786. Well done.
Tony is a single mum of 2 children with special educational needs. Her eldest son has autism and is taken to school via taxi arranged by the council. But when the start of term came around, his taxi did not.
It's stressful because it's bad enough adjusting from like the summer holiday routine back into the school routine. It's fine for you and I, but these SEN kids, they can't cope with it, and it feels like NLC just don't care.
And Tony was forced to shell out £60 just to get her son to and from school.
It's just shocking, like the cost of living and all that as is. Like, money's all accounted for and all budgeted for, and the heating rise coming up again, so that's like £60 I really didn't have.
But the debacle didn't end there, and now the council has had to redeploy bin men to drive the buses to try and plug gaps. But many children didn't make it to school on time.
If there's going to be no buses, nobody will send their ones to school because it's inconvenient. People have got jobs to go to. People haven't got time just to run up and down. They rely on these school buses.
The council's put the blame firmly at the door of SPT, who are responsible for fulfilling their transport contracts. They say they weren't told until the last minute that those contracts hadn't been fulfilled. Well, despite my requests, no one from the council was available to speak to me today, but they have said that this disruption could continue for the next 3 weeks. Due to the staff shake-up, the council has suspended all blue bin collections until September the 12th, an added inconvenience for parents still in limbo. Caroline Lewis, STV News.
Now, Raman's here with reaction on an eventful weekend of sport.
Get
your fill of the action. STV Sport, sponsored by Papa John's Pizza.
Good evening. Rangers have appealed John Lundstrom's red card against Hibs and have raised concerns to the SFA about the performance of referee Willie Collum. Collum sent off the midfielder following this foul on Martin Boyle when the visitors were 2-1 ahead. It's understood Rangers are concerned by the haste in which Lundstrom was sent off and other incidents in the match. Alfredo Morelos was also shown a straight red card, but the Ibrox club have not contested this. Ange Postecoglou says he's still building his squad as Celtic are set to secure a deal for Rubin Kazan winger Sead Haksabanovic. The Parkhead boss was speaking after his side capitalised on Rangers dropping points as they defeated Hearts 2-0 to go 2 points clear at the top of the Premiership. There was a minute's applause at Celtic Park to pay tribute to Celtic great John Hughes, who passed away at the age of 79. When the action got underway, Celtic quickly took control of the match. In the 13th minute, Daizan Maeda turned provider for Kyogo, who scored for the third game in a row. This wasn't a vintage performance from the champions. Maeda failed to capitalise when presented with a free header. With Craig Gordon injured, Ross Stewart deputised in the Hearts goal. He denied Matt O'Reilly early in the second half. Towards the end of the match, Hearts were reduced to 9 men after Alex Cochrane and Toby Sibic both received a second yellow card. Then, deep in added time, Yorius Giakoumakis doubled Celtic's advantage. Ange Postecoglou was content with his team's performance as he looks to further strengthen his squad.
We're still building. I mean, every now and then I'll glance at the diary and I'll just go back 12 months. And even if you go 12 months back from today, you're going to have a very, very different picture of what our football club looked like. So we've made a hell of a lot of progress, but we're still at the beginning. You know, I'm still building a team, building a game style, you know, building an environment.
On Thursday, Celtic will learn who they'll face in the group stage of the Champions League.
If you'd have asked me probably a few years ago, do you think you'd be playing in the Champions League? I probably would have. If I'm giving you an honest answer, it's no. But I'm fully aware that, you know, I've always backed my ability, and I've always backed that I've been. When I was at that level, I performed well, and, you know, I certainly deserve to be there.
Alex Gogic says he feels at home after joining St Mirren for a second spell. Gogic, who can play in defence and midfield, spent the second half of last season at the Buddies on loan from Hibernian.
A few offers abroad and stuff, but considering everything, I think this was my best offer.
Why was that?
Just like family-wise, I think I don't want to go anywhere by myself right now, because I've got small kids, and I think here we feel home, so we chose to come back here.
Well, St Mirren manager Stephen Robinson praised his players after the Saints defeated Dundee United 3-0, and Motherwell moved into third place after their 1-0 win over Livingston. And that, folks, is all we spoke tonight.
Get your fill of the action. STV Sport, sponsored by Papa John's Pizza.
Now, Sean has the weather forecast.
Well, it's been a bit of a mixed day for many of us today. Mind you, in the north, we've seen the best of the sunshine. But this week, Monday to Friday, we've got the jet stream very close by. That's not great news if you're wanting things to settle down, but good news if you're looking for water, because we'll see showers, longer spells of rain at times, a changeable week, and also rather windy at times in the northwest. But the jet stream starts to disappear into the weekend. A little hint that things should quieten down and perhaps warm up as we head through the weekend too. Let's look at the forecast.
A light drizzle is coming in from the west. TUI Blue Hotels sponsor STV Weather.
Well, a little bit of a meteorology lesson for you to start with tonight. We've got these three weather fronts joined up. Cold front moves quicker than a warm front, so that means it catches up with the warm front. Where they meet, they get an inclusion. And where the three weather fronts meet up, that's called a triple point. And that's why some of the rain has been a little bit heavier at times today. We've had a lot of cloud, outbreaks of rain. Most of the heavier rain now, though, is drifting away to the northeast, and that rain should tend to ease off later on this evening. But it's been quite damp through much of the evening, and also rather cloudy, but at least most of the rain eases a bit later on. Quite a warm night to come, especially in Glasgow in the city centre. Probably temperatures staying about 17, 18 degrees, and then just briefly dropping down to about 15 for a time through tonight. Tomorrow morning we've got yet more rain to go through, but once that morning rain goes through, we then see sunny spells and scattered showers across the mainland through the afternoon. But I expect the bulk of the heavy showers tomorrow will be across South Lanarkshire towards Falkirk and also into Fife. The further west we go, especially as we head into Arran, Kintyre and the Hebrides here, we should have a fair amount of dry weather with sunshine later on in the day. Then into Wednesday, well, many of us have got dry and bright weather, but in the Hebrides, OK, we've got the best of the weather tomorrow afternoon, but we will start to see some showers coming in here later on in the day, and also the breeze picking up as well. And this week is looking like a bit of a mixed bag, sunshine and scattered showers. Looks as if it should settle down and warm up, though, as we head through the weekend. Bye-bye.
TUI Blue Hotels. Sponsor STV Weather.
And finally, we talked about rubbish at the festival in Edinburgh earlier, but this is something special, a 3-time Grammy Award-winning group.
Yes, the Soweto Gospel Choir is bringing its new show, History of House, to the city for 2 nights only, and its UK premiere. Polly Bartlett has more.
It's a club night with a difference. Your favourite dance classics performed by a 3-time Grammy Award-winning gospel choir.
I think the choir was so excited. We were excited. This was something different. You can imagine a DJ and a gospel choir gelling together. It's something so much different. But the choir, we offer them one.
The Soweto Gospel Choir have been performing at the Fringe for a decade now. But for the first time, they're sharing the stage with chart-topping Australian DJ Groove Terminator.
Essentially, it's still like a DJ set of the greatest hits of everything for the last 40 years. Because when you talk about house music, you can't just talk about what's happened in the last 20 years. You've got to go back to disco, and you've got to do the stuff in the 80s, and you've got to bring all those influences in. A time machine, it takes you straight back to that magical moment where you met the person you're married to today, or you're just divorced, or whatever, you know what I mean? So it's pretty amazing. So it's continually just tugging at the heartstrings.
The show is one of an increasing number of late night events happening here at the Fringe. There's even a brand new nightclub. This venue's open until 5 a.m. and it's a loving restoration of the cult 1980s club, The Flick.
The Flick is usually an underground car park, and we have transformed it into a 1980s nightclub, and it is open until 5 a.m. most nights. I think it's always been a 24-hour festival, but this year we're making it even more so.
More and more venues across the city are putting on shows like this and making the most of the festival's 5 a.m. licence.
And that's something that we miss as a choir. So now we've got the chance of dancing at night.
History of House opens on Wednesday. This unique blend of gospel and dance will be bringing even more night fever to the Edinburgh Fringe. Polly Bartlett, STV News, Edinburgh.
Oh, sounds amazing. Well, staying with the festival, but on a slightly different note, and the funniest joke of the Edinburgh Fringe has been announced, and it's a pun about pasta.
This is getting a pasta joke now.
Much better than that, John. Masai Graham was voted the winner with this gag. I tried to steal spaghetti from the shop, but the female guard saw me and I couldn't get pasta.
Must have been the delivery somewhere. I missed that. I missed the joke there. Hopefully, maybe he'll do better. Must do. Yeah.
Thanks, John.
Good night.
Pasta la vista.